Hello everyone! In this episode of Computer History, I want to talk about one of the first portable computers, the TRS-80 Model 100. Well, not the original portable computer, because that honor is still under debate and could possibly go to the Epson HX20. It is the first to truly be mass marketed and achieved sales of millions. The TRS-80 Model 100 started its life in Japan of all places, and there it was not even called by that name, and that is because it was produced by a company called Kyocera. The program name locally was Kyotronic 85. The 85 in the name came from the processor inside, which was Intel 8085. That was an 8-bit processor which ran to speeds between 3 and 6 MHz. Same with the other 8-bit processors of its time, such as the 6502, it had a bus width of 16 bits, allowing it to access a total of 64 kilobytes of memory. Tandy purchased the rights and sold it in the United States as the TRS-80 Model 100. The price at the time was from $1,099 to $1,399, depending on what configuration you got, mainly memory differences. This was a major success for them, as it became one of the most sold Tandy computers ever, with sales in well over 6 million units. As usual, I'd like to talk a little bit about the company behind the computer, in this case, Tandy Corporation. Tandy was actually one of the big three computer manufacturers of the late 70s, early 80s. They also owned a series of stores, obviously the Radio Shack, which gave them a big edge at the time, because stores dedicated to selling computers were far and few in between. When they launched the Model 100 line, the company was producing a healthy number of computers. They had a TRS Model 1 that was getting old by then, the business model TRS Model 2, TRS-80 Model 2. They also had Model 3 and 4 was about to come out soon. They also had the color computer line. As you can see, at the time, the Tandy was somewhat heavily invested in microcomputers, and they shipped any computer with processors starting from Digilogue to Motorola to Intel. Because the TRS-80 Model 100 used to be used on the go, hence being a portable computer, most of the time by people in the journalist profession, it used to come in a bag such as this. So let's see what's inside. In the center you have a nice pouch, the computer itself, that slides out just like this. There you go. Here you have the power supply. Even though the computer has a battery, you want to plug it in. Over here you have other peripherals. Obviously you have the manuals for it, and interesting enough, mine actually comes from a TRS-80 user group, so I have a lot of magazines, basic programs, and different things I can do with it. There were, of course, more things the average Model 100 user could lug with them around. For example, it was common to carry around a telephone receiver to connect the internal 300 baud modem of the Model 100. Other things could be had as well, such as disk drives, printer, and Centronics printer cables, cassette drives, and so on. When the box is opened, it looks like this. On the left you have the motherboard, and on the right the top part of the TRS-80 Model 100. The processor is the big chip on the left, the Intel 80C85. Underneath it we have the static RAM chips. On the left side of that is where you would install the optional RAM if you were doing such thing. Furthermore, we have the ROM chip, with the basic inside it, and then above that we have the I/O chips and the UART, such as serial and so on. On the outside, the computer comes packed with connectors, definitely increasing its usability. For example, we have modem DB9 connector and switches for connecting a modem. On the back we have things like tape recorder, DIN type plug, phone line, also DIN plug. We have a parallel printer, Centronics connector, 26-pin. We also have an expansion bus with a 40-pin connector. We also can have a serial RS-232 DB25 connector. Of course, as usual, reset switches or battery backup switches. All right, let's talk specs. Like I mentioned before, the inside is powered by an Intel ADC85 processor, which is an 8-bit processor running at 2.4 megahertz. The memory is basic 8 kilobytes, but it could be extended up to 32 kilobytes. And it has a 32 kilobytes of ROM, which contains the Microsoft Basic. The display is larger than the other portable computers at the time. It has 8 lines and it gets 40 characters per line. And in graphics mode, that gives you 240 by 64 pixels. And what's more important was worth mentioning is that the whole weight of the computer, including the batteries, did not exceed 3.1 pounds, making it very light for such a useful machine. And that was one of the main drives of people buying it. So I turned it on. This one is now actually powered by battery. It takes 4 AA batteries. As you can see, the 8 lines of the LCD display and 40 characters. The ROM is written by Microsoft. There's a copyright Microsoft in the corner. And those are the normal programs that you have. So there's the arrows are on the side. So we have basic. We have scheduler software. We also have a text editor, a telecom for connecting the modem, and an address book. The base actually is pretty useful. Is Microsoft Basic. There can go. There are games you can write. It allows you also gives you access to the graphical mode, so you can do black and white per pixel drawing. One of the advantages of the battery is that, let's say I want to stop and I power it off, then later on I want to power it on, it starts exactly from where I power it off. So somebody could start writing a document, power it off, and then continue later. That was very useful for the time. So there you have it, folks. The TRS-80 Model 100, or actually in this particular case, Model 102, but really there's not much difference between them other than the addition of a system bus. So like I mentioned, it sold very well at the time. It was one of the best-selling computers made by the Tandy Corporation. It wasn't very expensive for what it could do, very light. You get a good amount of RAM from a set of 4 AA batteries, and there was a lot of peripherals you could connect to it, such as, like I mentioned, printers, disk drives, cassette players to load and save your basic programs, for example. A modem, it had a modem, internal modem, 300 baud wasn't much even for the time, but it was included. You didn't have to lug something with you that was an external modem. Yeah, it's a good machine. It's fairly easy to obtain nowadays. If you want to get one yourself, they're usually fairly cheap, around $20–30, even for good machines like this one. There are also emulators around, and if you look down in the description, I put a link to a few emulators for the machine itself. If you want to try it and have some fun. So yeah, TRS-80 Model 100/102 portable computer. See you next time.